I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Delanon, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Double Clutch NBA podcast. I'm Matthew Wellington, your usual host. I'm joined today once again by my partner in crime, my fellow backcourt member, Mike Miller.
Backcourt member, love it. Yeah, hello.
Well, the backcourts are the theme of these playoffs, apparently.
Aren't they the theme
in the Western Conference, anyway.
Well, yeah, yeah, just in the West, maybe. No, I disagree. Carry on.
So yeah, we're here to. Well, we've got a conference finals preview discussion to have, and we've got some of the game 7's which took place last night or 2 nights ago, depending on when you're listening to this. This will come out on Tuesday, so it'll probably be 2 nights ago. But yeah, it's been an eventful sort of 16 hours or 24 hours, really, isn't it? It's been a bit bonkers. We had a really good 8:30 tip-off in the UK for Portland and Denver, which was a cracking game. It generally looked like it was going to be a bit one-sided when Denver looked like they were going to run away with it. I think they were up 17 at one stage. But
yeah, I almost checked out at that point. I was just watching it and going, no, this can't be the way it ends. Then they rallied like champs or, conference finalists.
Well, yeah, 29-17 first quarter from the Nuggets, and they were hitting it from everywhere, and the Blazers just weren't hitting a thing. Damian Lillard was pretty poor. A lot of the scoring in the end ended up focusing on CJ McCollum, who finished with 37 points. But I mean, Dame time was the thing that people. He hit a couple of shots late in the third and fourth quarters, and people were saying he was then going to step up, but it actually came down to CJ McCollum in the end, who's made a name for himself this series, I think.
Definitely. He's sort of stepping out of the shadow because we already know that Portland are not the most well-known and well-followed franchise. We were saying a couple of weeks ago on Lillard, he's still underrated, and asked you what it would take for him to, be fairly rated. And we don't even really talk about CJ. I know, well, I say we don't. We have several times on the pod talked about them as a backcourt. And he has increased his value considerably as a player within the league, I think, based on that performance. I mean, he's always been good, but that to take over a game of that magnitude that way, fair play, CJ. That was epic.
Do you think the Nuggets just ran out of steam? Like, it looked like they were a heavyweight boxer and they were just throwing everything they could in those first few rounds just to see if they could sort of floor the Blazers, and unfortunately for them, that didn't work. I mean, Jokic looked pretty good for the first 2 quarters, and then he sort of disappeared towards the end of the game. But I feel like they just threw everything they could at them for the first quarter and a bit, and then it didn't work, and they didn't really there wasn't a plan B there.
I mean, it's difficult to say. Jokic has had some heavy logging in minutes this series. I mean, the 4 overtime game, he played over an hour, which is just insane for a guy who doesn't look like he's the most physical, the peak of physical fitness. Not saying, he's obviously...
How long are people going to run on about that for Jokic? I feel like it's going to be something that's going to define his career.
I think so. It's a word I've used before to describe him. He looks pudgy, but that's no disrespect. Well, it is disrespect to him, isn't it, really? But I think he's a phenomenal player. I wonder whether or not this all boiled down to experience in the end, though, because let's not forget this team has not made the playoffs until this year, and they are a young team. They were the youngest team in the playoffs in the first round, so to get where they got to, hats off. Unfortunate to lose on the home floor. Yeah, I mean it goes in the way of the home team over 70% of the time in game 7, so they're in a minority there.
Well, and their home record in general throughout the regular season was magnificent, and it was one of the things that myself and Joe Hilbert highlighted in the sort of keys to the playoffs when we did the article for the website. Was it's going to come down to who can win games on their home court. If the Denver versus San Antonio, it came down to that, and then this series as well, we thought it would have come down to a Denver home win, but Portland deserve to be where they are right now.
Yeah, we can't take anything away from them. A lot of people, myself included, didn't have them getting out the first round, and they asserted their dominance against OKC. I didn't know where it was going to go in the second rounds, and you can't ask for anything more than a Game 7, which is as close as that was. It's just nuts. And that CJ block, how can you not mention that? I text you straight away. I ought to tweet when the games are on.
You do, yes.
But I can't do it. It takes me like 5 minutes to send you a text because I keep looking up at the screen, and eventually I just send you things that are full of typos and just, yeah, it's hard work watching the game and trying to message people.
Hey man, live tweeting the NBA is not fun. I remember trying to do it in Game 7 between the Clippers and the Spurs a few years ago. No, yeah, the Clippers and the Spurs Game 7 when Chris Paul hit that sort of one-legged hook shot to win the game, but it was difficult doing that at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, whenever it was. But Sunday nights, like, NBA Twitter in the UK is alive. It's pretty cool. Like, it's the one night in the week that we get where sort of the UK community can come together and sort of do that, because obviously most of the games throughout the rest of the week are stupid hours for us. So
yeah, no, agreed. And that was the last one we're going to get this year, I think.
I know.
We're now at that point where everything happens stupid o'clock at 2 a.m. But the Blazers, Dame's performance, which was still, 13, 10 and 8, isn't bad. Basically a triple-double. But 17% from the field, 22% from three. Terrible shooting night. Has CJ saved him some public backlash, do you think?
I think he has a little bit, but I think they've both saved each other's backsides throughout multiple times over the last few years. Like, when CJ has a bad game, Dame can kind of step it up, but that's the luxury you have of having two phenomenal offensive talents. And to be fair, if you actually break it down and look at the third and fourth quarter, Damian Lillard wasn't that bad. I mean, he made 2 of 5 from downtown in that between the third and the fourth, and he had 6 of his 8 assists during that period as well. And that's what I thought. I think the Western Conference games that we've seen, this is where we've seen the difference in what truly defines a great point guard, because you've got, we've had Russell Westbrook, who, when the game wasn't quite working out for him, he didn't really want to turn himself into a facilitator. Mm-hmm. Whereas Lillard and Steph Curry, from what we've seen these games, and the Houston matchup the other night and the Denver game yesterday, we've seen these players, these two guys, know how to adapt their game to get to get their team involved. And Portland, like, to do what they've done without Nurkic and to get themselves to the situation where they're in the Western Conference Finals is quite frankly unbelievable, because Denver on paper looked like they would have been they'd have been a good matchup for Golden State, if there is such a thing as a good matchup for Golden State. But like, it's so impressive to see what Terry Stotts has done with this team, and to the fact that they're getting, production from guys off the bench, and the rotations that they've been running are just unbelievable. Like, you look at that game 1 to 6, Evan Turner had 4 points, and then in the fourth quarter of game 7, he comes out and he has 10 points, and like,
he still hasn't earned that contract. I don't care how good that.
Of course he hasn't. But
you made an interesting point there. When you drew the comparison to Westbrook, it reminded me of, to paraphrase Billy Hoyle, he'd rather look good and lose than look bad and win, whereas the Steph and Dame are willing to take that back seat. Yeah. One thing I can't forgive Dame for, though, was the Rodney Hood injury. That is 100% Dame's fault. We did not tell him the pick was there. I shouted at the screen, pretty sure I woke the baby.
Oh dear.
But fortunately, via Shams, the MRI is clean. It's just a hyperextension. So hopefully Hood will be back soon, because he's been really valuable. I know that I've been on the Hood wagon several times before. I was off after Cleveland last year. I couldn't stand that version of Rodney, but he has won me back over.
Yeah, and he's always been a guy who Donovan Mitchell spoke very highly of him, a lot of the Jazz locker room, and now in Portland, they speak highly of him as well. He's one of those, I just think he fits in with teams, does what he has to do to get by, and helps out with a lot of the younger lads, especially some of the rookies when they turn up on the team. But I think it speaks volumes that, like, Denver came out and blew them away in the first quarter last night, and then for the final 3, if you're looking at it on paper, who won each quarter, Portland won the next 3, and that kind of defined the game. And it was a sloppy it was almost it was a sloppy affair. These Game 7s don't tend to be pretty, really good-looking basketball. They just tend to be who can make shots at what time and who comes up big when they need it. And it was exactly the same with the Toronto matchup, which we'll get onto in a minute. But for Portland to be where they are, it's incredible for the city and for Damian Lillard to sort of stick his middle fingers up at everybody and to go into Oakland, which is where he's from and wasn't exactly highly touted around there when he was coming up through the youth ranks. You got the battle of the Curry brothers, the Curry Bowl as
yeah, that's a conversation I had at work today, actually, with a basketball friend. Ooh, basketball friend.
They exist. Great.
Yeah.
Love basketball friends.
As to who we're going to see is the favourite Curry son.
Yeah.
With Dell and family in tow, who they're going to be supporting, and that'll be quite interesting. I reckon they're going to do some kind of, those hybrid stitched half and half jerseys or something.
Oh God, that you see the scarves and stuff that you see in football.
Yeah, horrific. But it's going to be interesting because I've seen them at both Suns games, both Seth and Steph, wearing their respective teams' gear. So it'll be interesting.
Maybe they'll go with like Blazers shorts and a Warriors jersey or something.
No, because that's favouritism still, because that's one of the boys' jersey and the other one, just a pair of shorts that don't have your name on it.
Yeah, it could be like that guy, that Bucks, I say Bucks fan. I think he was actually a Celtics fan at the Garden the other night. He had a Bucks jersey on underneath his Celtics jersey. And when it was all going wrong, he just sort of flipped off his jersey and put in his Bucks one. That's on
horrific.
Show.
I've seen it before, but that's unforgivable.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it really is.
Especially, I mean, credit the cojones to go into an environment like that and to do that in front of all these diehard Celtics fans.
Is it really hostile? It's American sport. It's not Turkish EuroLeague basketball.
Or
yeah, exactly. Like, what's the worst? Someone's you might get popcorn thrown on you. Oh, great! Cheers.
Maybe, yeah.
Good job. I like popcorn.
It's interesting you mentioned Rodney Hood though, because we'll get onto it later when we talk about the next round. But I think injuries are going to be a real key point in the Western Conference Finals, and he's certainly one of them.
Do you? That's a teaser. We'll get to that. I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced? Oh,
no.
Well, never mind. So yeah, the other games that we can, with the other series, that we should probably touch on briefly because we haven't done a show in a couple of weeks. Me and you, Joe did one recently where we had David Nash on to talk about the Phoenix Suns, which was an interesting podcast. So go and check that one out. Hugh's been doing loads of his WNBA stuff, and Josh Coyne as well. So if you're into the women's game, which is starting in May, I believe. Yes, it is May. Yep. I'm just checking.
They're in training camp at the minute, and then it's May now. Yeah, so it starts.
It is May now. Yeah, I can't believe it's May now. It's freaking me out how quick this is.
It's
going.
Almost halfway through May.
Oh man,
that week off wiped you out.
It did. So if I sound a bit hoarse, I apologise. I have been off the last week with a pretty horrible cold, so it's been fun.
Yeah, well, we'll get on to Joel Embiid in a minute, but he played with gastroenteritis or whatever it was he was claiming to have.
Oh man!
So. Just think yourself lucky.
Yeah, so Golden State, Houston, Warriors took that one 4-2, winning on the road in Houston the other night at the Toyota Center. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson coming up big, as they have done throughout many times over the past half decade, it seems. No surprises there. James Harden getting a lot of stick again for playing the Isolation King.
That's the system, though. That's the system.
It is a system, and he's a project of the system, so I don't see why people lay the blame on him all the time. I think Chris Paul had a pretty poor series.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good game 6 for a bit, but I think the overall production from him throughout the series was not great. I think he's showing his age. Clint Capella probably didn't show up when he should have done. But yeah, Houston, they go back to the drawing board, and Daryl Morey and those guys, those wizards over there in Houston will be working on another plan. But it'll all be different next year. I think the landscape's going to change a lot in the summer. Flipping over the Eastern Conference, Boston, Milwaukee, the 4-1 win for the Bucks.
That game 5.
We got this. We got that right, man. We went for 5. A lot of the Celtics fans were in our ears, but we took it and went for it. And yeah, the Bucks backed us up by playing fundamental team basketball, I think.
Yeah, especially after game 1, that looked like it was going to be a whole different series. There was a lot of overreactions at that point.
I think Boston were riding the momentum that they had from the Indiana series.
But it was against Indiana. How did you get much momentum from that? Indiana were just...
Hey, the Celtics this season had to get momentum from somewhere because they've been a woeful shit show for most of the season.
Yeah. I remember the previews at the start of the year, we said the biggest problem for the Celtics will be their ability to manage the personnel and sort of the delicacy of chemistry, having gone through what they'd been through without their key players, and then to bring those guys in and the amount of minutes they took up, whether players could adjust to roles. I was very vocal that was a concern of mine, but if anyone could do it, Brad Stevens could, and it turns out that no one could, not even Brad Stevens, because that's what happened, essentially. They gave up on each other. And Kyrie's comments afterwards, they're all interesting, to say the least. They
were. We'll see where he ends up. But anyway, that's plenty of time for
Los Angeles
for a summer podcast. That was subtle, Mike. I like it.
Yeah.
So I guess the big one, Toronto Philly last night, which was the late game for us. Was it midnight tip off?
Yes, it was.
Something like that. I was in bed by then anyway. But
how did we bury this lead as well? We've managed to go 15 minutes or so already. I don't know how many minutes we've gone already, actually, but. And we haven't mentioned this. We didn't lead with this. Travesty.
No, but I thought we had to get the Blazers out of the way. They were the early game in the UK,
Oh, fair enough. We'll go chronologically. That's cool.
Yeah. There is some sense to my madness sometimes.
Do you know how infuriating it was that you were on no spoiler lockdown this morning and I wanted to talk about this game with you?
How infuriating was it?
Yeah, I didn't actually think you'd call me on it. It was quite infuriating. I was desperate to talk about this and talk about it ahead of tonight, and I couldn't, and I didn't even know when you'd watched it until you started making cryptic tweets from the site account about. Yes. Well, they weren't even cryptic, but just started tweeting the shot and things like that.
Well, wow. Now's your chance to talk about it, Mike.
I know. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Let's go. So the Toronto Raptors, a 92-90 victory with the very last shot of Game 7, the first ever game winner in a Game 7. Not the first ever game winner in a knockout game. I think Jordan hit one over a certain Craig Elo. A lot of people remember.
There's been lots of them.
Oh, has there?
Yeah. You want some stats?
Go on then.
Todd Spear, an Aussie who's he's a really cool guy. Actually, he's done a book on Petrovic, Mozart basketball, blah 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 blah. Proper stat head. So there have been 24 times in NBA history that a playoff series was decided in the final 2 seconds by a score. So that's field goal or free throw. 18 of those took place with 1 second or less remaining. 10 of those took place as time expired. So the first one was in 1960. Tommy Heinsohn. Jojo White in 1974. Ralph Sampson in 1986. Derek McKee in 1989. MJ had 2 in 89 and 93. Stockton had 1 in 97. 2 for Damian Lillard, 2014 and 19. And now Kawhi in 2019. That's a pretty elite list.
That's some impressive research, man. I'm floored.
That guy, Todd. Shout out to Todd. He's done a really cool thread about how it happened. And he's even put the victims on the other side of a bit later on, so Jordan over Elo and over Wilkins, Stockton over Barkley, Lillard over Chandler Parsons, Kawhi over Embiid.
Bless him.
Stellar research, really interesting stats.
That was really interesting. I'm impressed.
Kawhi, what? Do you know what I showed again? Basketball friend at work. Showed
shout out, hi basketball friend. You have a name, but hi basketball friend.
Oh, friend. That 3. What? How crushing is that?
It's ludicrous. I've not been watching NBA basketball for as long as you have, but I've never seen anything like that. Oh, here we go again. Yeah.
I don't remember the 1960 Heinsohn one. Thank you very much. I don't even remember the 1986 Sampson one.
1960s? Oh, I thought you could 1930s then. Or 40s.
Yep.
Before the merger.
Before the merger. Before they made, back when the lane was a key still.
Yeah, then basketball was better than it is now, according to old people. This game was crazy. I mean, I did actually manage to watch it over my lunch break. It was a little bit extended over my lunch break. I kind of had the window in the corner hidden under the emails, just so it kind of looked like I was doing emails.
And you're quite confident no one from your place of work listens to this podcast.
I probably shouldn't say that on this podcast.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
That's
you just need to go back and edit that and bleep out every little incriminating bit.
Yeah, that's the length that you go to. But I mean, an 18-13 first quarter from the Raptors. It looked like the 76ers couldn't hit anything, and the Raptors were Kawhi especially was missing wide open shots. I mean, he took a lot of shots on his way to 41 in the end. But it got scrappier and scrappier, and the Raptors led for most of it, and then Philly sort of fought back late in the second, and then in the third as well. They had a 7-point lead at one stage, and it looked like it was going to fall their way. I think you can't be disappointed if you're a Sixers fan. I think they played a magnificent Game 7 on the road.
Yeah, they did. To go out on that shot.
Once in a lifetime shot.
Yeah. How many times, if that shot had been true, nothing but net straight in there, cash.
You take it.
Yeah. But that must have been just like,
soul crushing. I mean, it hits the front of the rim, and then it hits the sort of right-hand side of the rim, and it hits the left-hand side of the rim.
I don't know what's worse, like to suffer that or Draymond Green kick to the nuts, because both has got to hurt pretty significantly. That just so long in the air. The first bounce was really high, and then it just pinballed around and went in.
I think it's still going around Saturn at this moment and on its way back down.
It was unbelievable. But I mean, that's what we're going to take away from it. But it would have been totally different had Butler not pulled it for a 3 or something like that instead of driving to the lane. Maybe we'd think differently of Kawhi, because he bricked that second free throw, which would have put them 3 up, and maybe we're talking something completely different. So I don't know. And you mentioned old school basketball about 5 minutes ago, if I recall correctly, in my old age. But for a bit in that first quarter, I felt like it was pre-shot clock era when I looked at the score, because it was 6-3 with less than 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, and I was just like, what?
Yeah,
how?
It's just Game 7 nerves, like. You see it every time we have Game 7s. Like they're few and far between. It's been quite a few the last few years actually, but it's the ultimate competitive playground and stage for these guys, and everything's on the line. And you imagine if the Raptors had lost that one, like the storylines that surround it. It's kind of unthinkable what some of these guys are going through, and like the stick that Joel Embiid's getting today for like crying. It's like. I mean, Charles Barkley said it on TNT after the game, like, every professional player who's had one of those moments where it's gone against them has cried. Yeah. It's just, you're so invested in the game and the moment that at that point in time, it means everything to you. And Brett Brown got asked about it in one of the post-game conferences. And for so long, I've thought, why on earth do they do these post-game conferences? Like, it's just torture for some of these guys. Like, they're asking stupid questions. They don't want to be there. Like, they've had a loss like that. But Brett Brown was asked about, what will that mean for Joel? And like his answer, go and see if you can find it on YouTube or whatever, because it's a really well-spoken answer, and like that answer alone would like probably justify enough of a reason to keep Brett Brown. Like, he's clearly a very thoughtful guy when it comes to his players. But saying that, he still didn't seem to play Joel Embiid by himself or Simmons by himself. They seem to have to always come as a pair, which I think causes
them
problems
at times. He didn't have much chance to play him by himself. They both of them logged 42 minutes or higher.
No, but throughout the series, you'd have imagined guys like TJ McConnell would have come on and got some bigger minutes. You'd maybe try and play Simmons at the center and experiment a little bit, like just try and throw Nick Nurse and the Raptors out of focus a little bit. Like the fact that Greg Monroe got 2 minutes in the Game 7 last night, just it blows my mind. The dude's washed. Like, at least get TJ McConnell or someone like that on there who has a little bit of flair about his game. I mean, he had a DMP and quite a few of the other guys. Like, it didn't seem that the Sixers wanted to go anywhere into their depth to try and bail them out at some stages of this game.
But no one does at this point, do they? The rotations get sorted down to 7 or 8. That's just what it takes at this point.
That's fine, apart from when Embiid's been averaging, 37 minutes a game for most of the season, looks injured all the time, clearly is not in good shape.
So why would you rest him in the game 7 then? He's already taken all that load. Like, what's 2 minutes going to make?
As well, it's more than 2 minutes. You played 45 in the end, so you play.
Yeah. So if he brought him out for 5 minutes, like to me it's too close. And you've seen what the plus minus is with him on and off the floor.
Not good.
Like, if you take Embiid out, that's the plug gone. That whole thing's going down.
Yeah,
and he's been out of shape. He's been injured. Do you know what? Like, we've seen him play the most minutes he's ever played. There was a point where they were managing him. They weren't playing him back-to-backs, and it all goes back to his sort of general health issues. But if they'd have managed him in a similar way to Kawhi was managed, then maybe we're talking a different story here, because he shouldn't have had, if they were managing his load correctly as they were supposed to be, and if they were allegedly doing that, then how's he getting tendonitis at this point? Like,
yeah.
And I get that tendonitis you can't really stop. It's something that it's just a repetition injury, so he's going to get it if that's the way his body's inclined to react. But I don't know.
I saw a very immediate reaction from one Sixers fan on Twitter where he was saying trade Joel Embiid before it all goes wrong. What were your
because
thoughts
of the
on that?
injury?
Because of
the
possibility of that, the reoccurring injury in the future, and the fact that you've got to pay these guys this summer. You've got Simmons next year, I believe.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, there is a cloud hanging over the franchise for sure, because you never know that this guy who's mercurial, who's on track to be a Hall of Famer, might, is one injury away from spending another season doing nothing. And when your chips are in, like Elton Brand threw all his chips in. We said this weeks ago.
Yeah.
He borrowed money from the house to leverage up on this, and he's just they're not been able to do it. But at the same time, they only played 10 games together in the regular season, this core 5. They haven't had any time to gel, and they're probably not going to get it, because that's a lot of money on the table unless people start taking discounts. And who's taking a discount there?
And it was a really weird series. You had some really close games, and then you had a couple of back-to-back blowouts, and it looked like either team could just run away with the series. And then you ended up with this Game 7, which was as close to Game 7 as you could possibly hope to get. I mean, the shot in the the shot in the corner over an outstretched Embiid. I mean, Embiid jumped a little bit too early, which meant he had to. If you go look at the replay, he jumped sort of before Kawhi went up to take his shot, which meant he had to then sort of, I don't know, find some extra energy to get up. But I think if he'd have jumped at the correct point, he would have probably blocked the shot. But that's like a minute thing you're looking at. Ben Simmons looked like he gave up on the play, to be honest.
I thought Ben covered him, my mate Ben, covered him well as he shaded him around the top and down the wing.
Why are you letting him go to his favourite side?
Well, what's the alternative? You try and force him left, he's going towards the hoop. That to me is an incredibly difficult shot. It's not, I mean, it's a decent percentage. We know how valuable corner threes are. Yes, he was half an inch in front of the line, but that's an even higher percentage shot.
It was an unbelievable shot. Like the angle that he had to get it off at, the whole sort of calculations that were running through his head at that moment in time. The defense from Joel Embiid, like, I know I've just had a go at Simmons a little bit, but everyone seems to like having a go at Simmons. It's just a thing.
I thought Embiid come out and
Embiid was magnificent,
perfectly. And then you said he went up a bit early. Well, great. He's closing the viewpoint. Yeah, he's closing the shooter's view right up, and outstretched arm, and the shot. That shot was not, air quotes, not good. Like, it went in, but it was short and got the luckiest of lucky bounces. It got.
Yeah. Well, do you see Kawhi's on the ground, like, looking at it? Like,
that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, it's him, like, crouched on all fours, like, just waiting for it to go in. But Joel Embiid was unbelievable. Like, to keep up with Leonard, the way he's played this series, he's got something like 240 something points. It's just, across the series, it's been unbelievable. And to keep up with him, the fact that he stuck with him on the corner as well, where he could have quite easily tried to let him drive inside, but that might have led to an easier shot. Like, you forced him into, at that moment in time, the most difficult area of the court he could get a shot up from, and he made it.
Yeah, he did. Fair play to him. He made it. Yeah, 243 points, third highest points in a series since the NBA-ABA merger, which I also don't remember before you say it.
That's cool. I wasn't going to say anything.
Elite company he's in. The only people with more points in a series are Kareem and MJ. So that's elite company. Although saying that, the game last night, you said how scrappy it was. That is definitely not a Spursian Kawhi performance. When would anyone in that system be allowed to take that many shots? It was insane.
It's the lack of production he was getting everywhere else. I mean, it says something that we actually haven't mentioned Serge Ibaka yet, but throwback to Oklahoma City, Serge Ibaka out there balling. He had a Kevin Durant fadeaway 3 at one stage, which looked amazing.
Crashing the glass as well.
They got nothing from Marc Gasol. They haven't had much from him throughout the playoffs, really. I think I don't know. It's almost like he's deferring too much. I know he's a great player, and he can. The situations he was in Memphis forced him to be the best player on the court at times, but like in Toronto, he doesn't seem to feel like he needs to do that at any stage.
I don't think he's comfortable yet.
No.
I mean, he's been in Memphis his whole career, and now he's somewhere else. He's not the main guy. He's had to pick it all up on the fly. He's just not comfortable. But the reason they brought him in was for this series. Yeah, and to grab some offensive and defensive rebounds. And this game I think there was multiple Raptors players with 11 boards or more. There was some really bad shots in this one, which meant there was a lot of rebounds. Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But there were times it looked ugly because there were times where you're right. The offense was static. No one wanted to step up except for Kawhi, and it ended up a lot of the time looking like Kawhi was forcing stuff. Well, he wasn't getting any. Like Danny Green wasn't helping him out at all. I think Danny Green finished with 2 points in the end, and he played 30 minutes, which is not great. I mean, he's arguably one of the most experienced players on that court, and he didn't really bring you anything in Game 7. But yeah, he's the other champion. It's the luxury of having a deep roster, and you had Serge Ibaka coming up big when it mattered, and we saw highlights of his former self. Kyle Lowry as well. Give him all the credit. He's had some tough games in these playoffs so far, but when they've needed him to dig in deep, he's managed to do it. Yeah, he added a lot that doesn't just show up in the box score, I think. The Raptors conference finals, basically Masai Ujiri's moves last summer paid off. They were already ahead of where they were last year. So that's great. I noticed there was reports before the game that if they didn't win, the likelihood of Brown returning to Philadelphia was slim. To me, that seems nuts. I get people can critique him all you want, but if you're, a prayer shot away from the round that would have saved your job, that seems extremely harsh if you take the axe for that. Yeah, it's all up in the air. It remains to be seen what will happen, but I think Philly's got a lot more to worry about this summer than just whether or not they keep Brett Brown. But he's taken a lot of stick and been through a lot of rubbish while he's been in his coaching tenure. So we'll see what happens. So let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu. NBA Store is Europe's official NBA online store. It has everything you need to rep your team this season, from the current Nike jersey range to hardwood classics and stance socks. And it's the perfect time of year to rock a jersey too. I've spent the past week or so switching between my 83-84 Drexler Hardwood Classic Blazers Road jersey, which is absolutely fire, and in honour of the future MVP, I'm currently rocking my Bucks Nike Icon Swingman jersey. That's epic, man. I need to get myself one of them. And our listeners can get 15% off orders using the code DCPOD15 at the checkout. That's DCPOD15. Make sure you put your items in the basket before you go to the checkout, and don't do what I did. Offer excludes clearance and outlet items. So what are you waiting for? Head to NBAstore.eu now and use the code DCPOD15. Couldn't be simpler. And now back to the conference finals. Right, so the NBA conference finals, this is what we've waited for. I can't believe it is midway through May, as you reminded me earlier on in the podcast. We've got Warriors and Portland, I can't believe we're saying Warriors and Portland. This is normally a game, a round one matchup. For starters, and then we've got Bucks Raptors in the Eastern Conference. I mean, take your pick, Mike. Which one do you want to start with first? Let's go with the one that's going to be over quicker. Warriors and
Well, how
Portland.
am I meant to know that? Oh, okay. All right, got you.
You mentioned earlier how you thought that injuries were going to be a key part in this. I would like you to expand on that, and then I'm going to shut it down.
Well, Durant is obviously out at the moment. Whether he will return in this series, but it probably won't be until Portland get home, which means Portland could attempt to steal home court advantage in either game 1 or game 2. I think they've got the offensive firepower to do it. I think we've seen that CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, these playoffs are right where they need to be in terms of form, and their bench has been significant, but that's when I go back to Rodney Hood being injured. He's one of those guys who has been magnificent for them. He is out injured, and obviously Nurkic has just been out the whole playoffs, so that's a problem for them. But I think the injuries probably will help to define it. They won't go a long way in defining it, but I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it, but Andre Iguodala's out there. He's 35 years old, and he's playing some of the best basketball of his career. But does that last forever? But yeah, I think injuries. I think Durant is the difference maker in a series. If he plays, this is over really quickly. While he isn't playing, I think there can be a little bit of doubt there. As much as I'm doubting myself saying that now because it's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson.
This is the thing.
I've witnessed the rise of these two.
Exactly. People forget that these guys were winning before KD went, I want some of that cake. He's just cupcake, if you like. But
I see what you did there.
No, you didn't go there.
God, you did.
We saw them beat Houston. Houston was clearly a bigger threat to them than the Blazers are going to be. Fair enough, there's injuries. KD, I've seen things saying he'll be back possibly for game 2. I've seen things saying probably won't be back before game 4. Well, this could still end in 4.
It could, but if you've got, I forgot to mention DeMarcus Cousins, but if DeMarcus Cousins and Durant both come back, then
then you can't get any less than 4. It's still
a
over in 4. Yeah, but the Blazers might steal 2. And if they get 2, they will be stealing 2. We've seen they can't deal with bigger guards. They have struggled. That is historically where they've struggled. Dame struggled largely against Denver last night because Torrey Craig was just a much bigger body on him.
Yeah.
I think Clay's going to do the same thing. So you're going to be reliant on CJ, who's probably going to be ended up matching up on Andre Iguodala, who again a defensive legend. It's going to be really, really difficult, even with a hampered Golden State Warriors team, to come out of this with any remote chance of a Portland series victory.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I haven't said at any point that they have a chance of winning the series, but I think that the injuries have given them a bigger chance that they were possibly going to have with a fully fit and healthy Warriors lineup on the floor from game 1.
Maybe. I don't think KD's injury is going to define this series too much. Watch them go out and win it.
How
now.
bad is a strained calf? Is it 2 weeks? Is it more?
Well, I was reading it depends on the grade of the strain, because a strain and a tear are the same, and the grading they apply to, it's a grade 1 sprain versus it's a grade 4 sprain, is the amount of fibers that have been torn. So I don't know what grade he's got. I'm not a medical professional. I just happen to read something and be able to recite it almost word for word. So it depends. But I get, again, I'm not that worried. I'm not that worried.
No, and they've played. They played each other a few years ago. I seem to remember.
Wasn't that a sweep?
Was it what?
Was it a sweep?
Yeah, that was a sweep, and that was it was just an offensive showcase. Both teams proved they couldn't stop each other, and in the end, the Warriors were better at shooting than the Blazers were. And I think that we could end up seeing a sort of repeat of that this year. Really, I mean, right now is CJ McCollum a bigger warrior for the Warriors than Damian Lillard?
No, one game. Come on now, don't try and bait me with that.
Hey, I got to bait you.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I try and bait you all the time.
That was a good question, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. No, but no. I'll expand on that. CJ is, very good player, but
it's CJ
Dame
time.
Had one off
Come
game.
On, it's CJ time. I'm slapping my hands on my desk.
Time. It sounds like a really bad 90s Saturday morning sitcom.
Yeah.
Dame has carried them this far on his back. He carried them when CJ was out and Nurkic had gone down at the end of the regular season. He just had I think he had a blip against Denver. I don't know whether it was Game 7 nerves, which given that a week or two ago, he said, when someone said, "Do you feel pressure?" He said, "Are you kidding me? I play a game for a living. I'm not a single mum having to support my kids."
Very grounded. Yeah,
it was a beautiful sentiment, but
that's Damian Lillard, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We love Dame, even though he blanked me at the NBA 2K launch party.
He still follows us on Twitter, though. So
yeah, well, he could have. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to go there. He could have acknowledged me. I'm crying into my spilt milk over here. I don't think Portland have a chance in hell.
No, even with McCollum averaging 33.5 points the last 2 games of that series.
But do you think if he's averaging... I mean, they might stick Steph on him for a bit, who is the, air quotes, weak link on this Warriors defense.
Yeah,
but
Clay's a good defender, though.
The only way... We know the only way you can beat the Warriors is to beat them with height and size. We've seen that many times before. DeMarcus was supposed to be the solution to that. He hasn't been, obviously, because he's torn his quad, although he could be back any time.
Well,
so who's going to win this series?
Kanter's been pretty aggressive. He's been pretty aggressive these 2 series. To do what he's done with the bum shoulder that he's got and everything else that's going on in his personal life at the moment it's pretty impressive. I mean, he's averaging 13 points on 52% shooting. I mean, what more do you just want from a guy just to fit in?
13, but yeah, exactly, just to fit in. He's not going to be the defining player in the series, is he?
Well, no, and Draymond Green's probably just going to force him to play defense anyway, in which case that's going to be embarrassing.
It was. I think I might have texted you yesterday during Game 7 several expletives with Kanter next to it.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
It's just like his defense is lax at best. I get scared every time I see him lumbering down the court as a trailer. There was an instance yesterday where I think Dame hit him as he entered the top of the 3-point arc. He caught it in stride, took 2. What's the word? Not artistically pleasing steps, and then ended up kicking out to Seth Curry with such a poor kick out, it went straight out of bounds. He's useful as a spark plug. He can have impacts in games, but he's not the guy who's going to take you over the edge against the Warriors. And if he is, it's not a good place to be.
What do you think about the depth argument then? The depth that Portland are bringing into this series at the moment. They've got guys who, we mentioned Rodney Hood already, but Zach Collins has had a magnificent series. He had a pretty dodgy Game 7, I thought, but he was playing against Jokic for most of it. And then Seth Curry's a pretty good X factor off the bench at the moment. Mo Harkless, Aminu. There's some good guys there where I don't think the Warriors have that depth, but is that going to be an issue?
I'm not particularly concerned by it. I mean, Zach Collins he's someone else who that series has earned him a paycheck.
Yeah,
he was great that series. He was a real spark plug and someone who I didn't originally think could be of that value to the team. But you talk about their depth. Well, okay, they've got all you've done is name the starting 5 and Seth and Zach Collins. They've got 7. So because you've got Mo, Aminu, Ennis, and then you've got the backcourt of CJ and Dame. Then you throw on top of that Seth and Zach Collins. Well, who else have they got? That's 7.
Well, that's
You're going to need to go 7 or 8 dates.
It's Quinn Cook or McKinney or Repko
or Livingston.
Yeah, dude, he looks past it most of the time.
He's been looking past it since he twisted his knee up.
He's probably playing on one leg, I think, this series.
Exactly. But in the playoffs, he comes alive because he will back you down because he's a flipping 6'10" point guard with one of the most uncoordinated, ungamely turnaround jump shots you see that somehow goes in every single time from 12 foot. They've got guard-wise, they've got size on these guys because you've got that key 3 of I say key 3, that you've got the key 2 of Dame and CJ, and then you've got Seth. All of those guys are diminutive in their stature. I just can't see it. I don't think having a depth of 7 or 8 players is going to be. If you could go 10 deep on them, maybe we're talking. But I just don't know. No,
I think Golden State have better top end talent, but Portland if Portland have to have something to feel good about this series, then you've got to give them something. So I give them the depth on the bench that they've got. I think they can make a fight of it. I mean, questions for Golden State, perhaps, like Steph Curry, foul trouble. Is it a thing? Do you think it's going to be a thing? Are they going to trouble him enough this series?
They're going to go at him. Because he's the defensive weak link, they're going to go at him. He needs to hide. He needs to hide. They need to hide him on defense. And the thing is, the way the NBA works now with isolation play after isolation play, they will go and find the correct pick and roll, and they will keep working it. And we've seen it in every single series that the Golden State have basically been in. You know, you look at the finals last year, every possession is LeBron's going to go find a pick and roll so he gets Steph switched onto him. And it's just, that's who they're going to go at. I mean, he does get caught with his hand in the cookie jar quite frequently.
I love that phrase.
Yeah, he just get your hands out of the way. But they're going to go at him, so he's gonna give up more fouls. If he does get into foul trouble early, we will see whether Clay can carry the team on his own, I guess. But we know he can do it in fits and spurts. Yeah, and it's a key series for him because, well, I say that it's a key playoffs for him because that guy is going to want to get paid.
So before we get carried away, Wednesday, 2:00 in the morning, Portland Golden State, game
Tuesday
1.
night, Wednesday morning, yeah.
Who are you taking?
Golden State.
Golden State, yeah. Who are you taking to win the series?
Golden State.
Oh, okay.
Honestly.
Okay, how many games do Portland take? That's probably a better question. Come on, put your Blazers hat on. Put your University Portland hat on.
Well, I'm at university. At a push, I think they can take 2.
2.
I think it's going to be 4-1. And I think if they get that 1, I'm covering all bets here. I think it's likely to be 4-1 or 4-0.
Okay. Brilliant. That's all I needed.
So what's your call on it?
I'm going Warriors in 6.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 4-2.
I think Portland may have the potential to sneak one of those first 3 games, like I said, without KD, but once KD gets back, it's just going to be one-way traffic from there. So if they're going
assuming there's no rust.
Yeah, assuming there's no rust, they're going to have to make it a series. They have to steal either 1 or 2 or win their home games. It's as simple as that.
If you're Steve Kerr and you get to game 4 and it's 3-0, would you rest him?
What, Durant?
Yeah. Would you bother, if you can close out the series without him and have to play him?
Knowing who you're going to face in the East, yes, absolutely.
Cool.
Or if it's potentially who you're going to face in the East, I should say.
If it's 2-1 going into game 4, do you rest him?
No, I play him.
Okay.
With Damian Lillard and CJ backs against the wall, that place, don't put it past them, man.
Okay, fair enough.
You heard it here first. Right, moving on to the second one. We've got the Eastern Conference finals. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Toronto Raptors. This was obviously decided early this morning, as we were saying, or late last night, or whenever it is you listen to the show. So many things to watch in this series. I mean, is this like the best player in the world match-off right now? Like, you've got Giannis versus Leonard. I mean, I know I'm throwing shade on Durant, but I don't care.
Yeah, massively. But let's call it the best healthy player in the world. I think it is.
You think it is?
Yeah. I mean, I've been a fan of Giannis ever since Milwaukee played the Knicks in London all those years back.
No, I took my friends to that game actually, and I was sitting there with my friend Johnny, and I was saying, "You need to keep an eye on this kid." I said, "Kid, he was still massive compared to everybody else back then." But
I just remember him going in for a layup, and I think I was sat there going, "Oh, this is going to be a nice finger roll," and then his arm just kept going like the Space Jam dunk.
Yeah.
And I went, "Wow,
it's unbelievable."
And ever since then, I've just loved the guy, and I am sat here right now wearing his jersey.
And you visited his court in the summer.
And I visited the court he went to. He used to play on in Athens, which was really cool.
Surreal.
And we messed around on that, which wasn't cool because it was 40-degree heat and we were all hungover. So don't do that.
Oh God, you must have been sweaty messes.
Sweaty messes, and I'm pretty sure I had the shakes, actually. We'd drunk that much the night before, but that's another story.
Wow. This is what you and Joe Hulbert get up to when you're away.
Yeah, apparently so. But yeah, Giannis is my MVP this year. Absolutely phenomenal. Kawhi has come to life in this playoffs, and if he'd have played like this all season, and obviously we mentioned low management earlier, then he likely would have been an MVP candidate as well.
Yeah.
I have got in my notes, because I do make them occasionally. Like, this for me, you bang on the money. It's the most intriguing matchup that we're going to see from a one-on-one perspective, because we've not seen anyone really be able to stop Kawhi. I mean, Jimmy Butler has slowed him, and I wonder whether the length of Giannis is going to give him Kawhi that problem. I'd love to see him match up a lot, basically. But then the flip the other way is Kawhi is the best wing defender in the league, full stop. Yeah. Can he stop Giannis? And I'm trying to work out, you look at the way he gets steals, like that, he just bodies up on people and strips them at the top of the 3-point line. Can he be the guy to take Giannis out of his dribble, basically? And then is he quick enough laterally to get around Giannis's giant, ocean hopping Euro step? It's just, I can't wait to see it. This is going to be one of the highlight matchups for me. Yeah, this entire playoffs.
I think you've got two all NBA caliber players. They both make their presence felt on both ends of the court. They're going to impact the game all over, everywhere. Like, even if they're having an off game, they will both still impact the night. That's not to say they will have off games, because I think they've both been phenomenal these playoffs. And the Celtics couldn't do anything to stop him after that game one in the last series. And
what's the thing? We've seen like big guys are the guys who have to go out and cover him, and they'll step off him to let him shoot, to try and force him to shoot the three. Occasionally he hits it. Like, he's starting to become more and more respectable with it.
He was shooting a better percentage than Kyrie, I think, at one stage during that Boston series from three.
Well, that wasn't hard, really, was it? Kyrie wasn't exactly setting a bar of excellence.
It's freaking Kyrie Irving, though.
Yeah, and yeah. Less said about that, the better for the minute, I think.
Hey, he hits threes. That was what I was implying.
What? Not in that series, he didn't.
No, in general, Kyrie.
Yeah, in general, when he's not. Oh no, wait, he's always a moody old. But anyway,
Celtics fans, director abuse to Mike Miller.
I just want to see I just want to see this matchup, like the claw.
Do you think they'll play up against each other a lot, or do you think that would be folly given the offensive load both of them carry?
Well, no, I'd like to see it. I don't care whether they're going to do it.
I'd expect to see Middleton on Leonard quite a bit, and Siakam's probably going to follow Giannis around the court quite a bit.
Do you think Middleton can body?
No,
do you think he can body him up the way that? I don't think
he can, but I expect that Mike Budenholzer will do that.
And who do you think is going to cover Giannis?
Probably Siakam.
Oh, okay, all right. Siakam's got the length and the body type to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I think there will be moments where they go in mano, gladiators in the arena, and we all get off our seats and throw popcorn.
Oh man, I really hope it is. Let's just one-on-one full court. Make them do it like that KG Team USA video.
Yeah, that would be bonkers. Do you think the benches are going to play a significant role in this one? I mean, this is you've got two very team-orientated sides. I say team-orientated, like the Raptors with just sort of 50% of the points came from Leonard last night or something ridiculous.
Yep, 41 of 92.
Which is crazy, and he's carried them for most of the playoffs so far, but like the Bucks are, we said it earlier, fundamental basketball, it's brilliant to watch. Like, if you're just a fan of the game, just to watch what they do on the court every night. Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, they just get everybody involved, and it when it works, there's no better team to watch in the league, I don't think, apart from the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I think Connaughton's a good player for them. I liked him in Portland. I just didn't think he was right for the role they had him in. And one of the commentary teams was saying the other day that his vertical at the rookie combine was 53 inches, and I was just like, "You are joking!" Like, he can bounce, but I did not expect it to be as high as that. Get him in a dunk I don't think the benches are going to be as much of a factor in this series as much as the 4 supporting players of the starting 5s are going to be.
Yeah.
Which sounds like an obvious thing to say, but we've seen Toronto shrink around Kawhi, whereas Giannis gets everyone going because the system is all geared around him going to the hoop because they've spread the floor. And if the help gets sent, they just flip the ball around the outside until they find a 7-footer about 30 foot from the hoop who takes about 7 threes a game. They've got so many weapons. It's a really tough series to call, though.
Yeah.
Really tough.
I mean, the Bucks actually have played better throughout these playoffs when Giannis hasn't played with the starters. They're 21 points better off per 100 possessions, which is a crazy stat. And you juxtapose that to the Raptors and Leonard. When Leonard sits, the Raptors are 16 points worse.
Yeah. Man.
Which speaks volumes, especially when you go and watch Game 7 again. You're just like, this is just one man like willing his team to win. We didn't actually speak about the significance of that moment either for Toronto and what it meant for Kawhi and his future there, and biggest shot in franchise history. Not that there's been many. I mean, you could probably. I say that you could probably count. Kyle Lowry hit a half-court buzzer beater, didn't he, in 2016? Do you remember that? And they lost the game, but everyone was like, "This is amazing."
Yeah, but they lost the game, and it wasn't to put them into the conference finals. Whereas this was for a buzzer beater series, Game 7. This was
Donyell Marshall hit 12 threes once. I mean, that was a cool moment.
Yeah, and did Vince get to close to 60? Once?
Yeah, because DeRozan had 54, I believe, a couple of 3 or 4 years ago.
To who?
To who? Yeah. No, yeah. Oh, God. I wonder what he's feeling this morning.
Yeah, that's got to be tough
Lowry,
to see.
Did you see Lowry's press conference?
No, I didn't.
He looked really he looked really unenthusiastic about the whole moment. They asked him what his thoughts were, and he was like, "Yeah, it was a good moment. It was good for the city." But like, he was so muted, it was almost like, I bet if that had been him and DeMar, he'd have been through the flipping roof.
I agree with that. And maybe there is some sort of respect to his old running partner there.
Yeah.
And possibly an acceptance that one of the things I banged on about for years was this conflict of identity.
The right decision.
Exactly. Masai did make the right decision, but it's that they didn't know who the leader of the team was. Oh, sometimes it's Kyle, sometimes it's DeMar. Often it's neither, and that's why they get bounced in the playoffs. Whereas Kawhi is just taking his team, and I love the fact that it was obviously his Gatorade made his tongue blue, but it just as he was like putting that face, you could see his blue tongue. It just reminded me of the Game of Zones White Walker, and I was just like, oh my god,
when Kawhi was taking the shot.
Well, afterwards, like when the whole team are like around him and huddled into him, and the man with no emotion is there, mouth agape, blue tongue hanging out.
I'm trying to find. There's a photo of Vince Carter with exactly the same tongue out against Philly in the last time they were in the same situation. Bless him. I mean, Kawhi hits a
huge shot,
game-winning buzzer beater, and proceeds to his post-game interview with about the same enthusiasm as a man who found a decent but not great car park spot. Like, it just, he blows my mind, and he's doing it with New Balance shoes on, and Nick Nurse comes out in his post-game interview and talks about how perfectly balanced the Raptors are, channeling his inner Thanos from the Avengers. It was a bit weird, but
so do you think this has an impact on this summer?
But this moment,
yeah, this man totally
I think he's
devoid
probably
of
made
emotion.
I want to edge towards he made his mind up before he even signed with the Raptors, or even was traded to the Raptors.
So you think his decision is not to stay then if he'd made it prior to arriving? I
don't think he'll stay, but I think if they get to the finals and they make a game of it, then that might sway him a little bit. But I think he's been set on the Clippers. I think there's been some sort of master plan going on between everybody, like secret communications in the NBA for the last few years.
You're not suggesting that there's tampering
in the NBA.
It all seems
too convenient, But no, it was an unbelievable moment, and most players would hit that, and that's it. I mean, he will be a Raptors legend, but if he leaves, is he still going to be the same level of legend?
I think he should be, because he went in and did what no one else in front.
Do.
Yeah, exactly. Ron Seal
does exactly what it says on the tin.
Oh wow. So yeah,
I don't know why I knew that off the top of my head. That's really embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Say no more. And I apologise to anyone who doesn't know what Ron Seal is.
Yeah, any of our American and Australian audience. It's quite a lot of Australians actually. Shout out.
Yeah, quite well, more Americans. But anyway, besides the point. Yeah. If he goes, he came in, he made no assurance, gave no assurances, did exactly what was asked of him, dragged them over the line to the conference finals. Like if he walks away, he doesn't owe the city anything. They didn't give him an opportunity no one else was willing to give him.
He thinks it's too cold anyway, so you know. Yeah,
I mean, did you see the Serge Ibaka?
The YouTube video.
Yeah, where they're eating the bull penis.
Yeah, I did.
Did you have to beat that? That sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? But no, it was proper grim. Bull penis pizza, I believe it was. And he keeps asking him about what he's going to do this summer, and he's like, I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, well, he got asked again last night after the game, and he started talking, and then he said, "That's the biggest." I can't remember what it was. It was like, "That's the biggest shot of, the season or something." And he paused, and then it said, "of my time here or whatever." And it was really weird.
I wouldn't be surprised if he walked. It would feel. I don't know, if he does walk, I want him to have left everything on the table, like that this is as far as this franchise, this version of this squad is going to go.
Yeah.
But again, he's not been there to build it. He's just come in and shown that he is one of the top 5 players in this league, and he's going to, wherever he goes, he's going to continue to be that guy.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting contrast of styles because, like, you've got Milwaukee who have just, pummeled the ball straight to Giannis most of the season, and he's gone and tried to score into the rim. If that hasn't worked out, he's kicked it out to all of those shooters they've got all over the place. Like, it's space and place perfection most of the time. And then you've got the Raptors who just seem to be a bit of a jack of all trades, and that's what we saw in Game 7 last night. Was like, you had two very methodical teams who every time they went down the court looked like they were surveying the situation, working out what the best thing to do was. Like, it was a real chess match last night, and I think this series is going to be, a little bit opposite, which is why, in my head, I think the way Milwaukee have played throughout the regular season, how locked in they've been, and how well they've played in these playoffs. I mean, I don't think they've had a real challenge yet, but like, I think they're going to be really tough to stop, man.
What's your prediction then?
I think we'll go Milwaukee in 6.
Oh, you think it'll be done in 6? Okay.
Which, for me, who's like half my heart seems to live in Toronto, I think, is difficult to say, but yeah.
I can see it going 7, but I think 6 is a safe bet.
Yeah.
And I'd go Bucks as well.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be amazing if Toronto went to the finals. Incredible, but...
It'd be amazing if Milwaukee went to the finals.
Of course it would.
Giannis
gets to the finals and then has to play perfect team basketball to beat the ultimate team. I like it.
What, the Trailblazers?
Oh, yeah, the Trailblazers. That's it. Oh, God. On that note. If you've enjoyed the podcast, guys, please do leave us a review on iTunes or wherever it is you listen to the podcast. If you don't know, we are available on Spotify now, so please go and subscribe to us on there as well. The website is doubleclutch.uk. The Twitter is @doubleclutchuk. If you're watching any of the games throughout the week, if you're up at any of these crazy times in the morning, oh, by the way, Toronto and Milwaukee is Thursday at 1:30 in the morning. So that'd be a late one. But there is actually a game Saturday night, so you can stay up and watch that one without
still a 2 a.m. tip,
being too sleep deprived. Yeah, but it's a weekend, so you can get away with
it. Yeah.
I say. Go on the lash and then turn up at...
There you go. Get your Nando's and your boys again.
Yeah, get your Nando's and your boys and then turn up at 2:00 in the morning and you'll be sorted. But yeah, no, Mike, have you got anything you want to shout out before we call it a night?
No, I don't think so.
No? We managed to go through this whole show about talking about Game of Thrones as well, which seems to be a rarity in the podcast world these days.
I did mention Game of Zones and referenced White Walkers, so does that count?
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Game of Zones is so good, man. We've got to get the Melmoth brothers on.
Oh, yes. Oh, when you started talking about Maury redoing the, going back to his maths this summer to work out the next angle, I just had that vision of him, and it's just like, oh yes.
Mad
Go
scientist.
and watch Game of Zones if you haven't.
Yeah, well, check out Game of Zones. But yeah, no, I think that's it.
Sweet.
Right. Well, we'll catch you soon, guys. And remember, if you do want anything from NBA EU Store, Double Clutch Pod 15.
DC Pod.
DC Pod 15.
There you go. That's why you didn't get your discount when you tried to buy some Lakers gear.
because I typed it in wrong, probably. What do you mean Lakers gear?
Blazers
I was
now.
a Blazers fan now. Changing my allegiances. Doing Double Clutch means you can support everybody.
Well, exactly.
I'm that guy who goes to the game that we mentioned earlier, but I have every jersey on, and I just flip it. I'm super quick at flipping the jersey.
But they're not even playing tonight. I don't care.
Anyway, we'll catch you soon. #NBA in the UK.